if you need to figure out what your monthly payment is going to be, and you only know how much you borrowed and what the interest rate is and how long it's going to take you to repay it, if you know your way around a scientific calculator, you can use this formula. And I want to point out that this formula involves three things. How much are you going to borrow? What's your interest rate? And how long? Now, notice that this could be written as 120,000 times the rest of it. So what that means is if you double that 120 to 240,000, it will simply double the amount of payment. And to point this out, this only is for repaying what's called the principal and the interest. It does not include if you have an escrow account, which is your money. They take a little bit out of your account every month and they put it in what's called escrow, because when it comes time to pay your insurance and your property taxes, your mortgage company will do that for you if you have it set up that way. So very carefully, this is how you do it with a scientific calculator. 120,000, and look at it, times 0.06, and that is 6% changed to a decimal. When you divide it by 12, you get what's called the monthly interest rate, because you pay monthly interest rate. It'd be terrible if you had to pay the entire year, which would be like $7,200. But that's only if you've had their money for a year. You've only had it for a month. Now that has to be divided by this complicated, not very attractive expression. And I've got to put the entire denominator in parentheses. So I'm going to put open parentheses. Then it says 1 minus. Okay, so that's 1 minus, guess what? Another open parentheses. And my calculator here says, okay, this is parentheses number 2. So that's going to be 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12. Again, that's the monthly interest. Close parentheses. That's 1.005 in that parentheses. Sure it is, because 12 into 0.006 is 0.005. And I'm going to raise that to the power of minus 360, which on my calculator, I put 360, and then I change the sign to minus. And I'm going to close that parentheses, and that'll give me the denominator to be 0.8333, yada, yada, yada. And now when I hit equals, it's going to do the numerator, which you would call it 600. It will do that divided by that. And your monthly payment is $719.46. Cool. Well, one way you could do this with Wolfram Alpha, it turns out it's not very neat to do it with Wolfram Alpha, but we'll try it anyway. So if you go to Wolfram Alpha, now more technical difficulties. Sorry for the inconvenience. All right, so I put the code in here for you. Now, there's more than one way to do this, but what is important for you to know is that your interest at 6% is really 0.06 after you change it to a decimal. So here I call it, your principal is 120,000, your R is 6, and your number of payments is 360. Now you can either take the 6 and put it in there and then multiply it by 0.01. That changes 6% to 0.06, which is what it's supposed to be. All right, but look at what happens when you do this. It's kind of intriguing. And the nice thing about it is you can change the numbers. So let's see how Wolfram Alpha interpreted that by clicking on the equal sign. It's going to say, oh my goodness. Yeah, that's right, because 0.01 and R is 6, and then that's what I want. But look what answer it gives. It says 1.1991 times 100. What the heck is that? Okay, well, here's what the heck that is. That's Wolfram Alpha being Wolfram Alpha. Remember, 7/1946. So let's just see what that is. 1.1991 times 120,000 times 0.005. Oh my gosh, it's the same thing. How cool is that? But it's a little difficult at the least. So now what I want you to do. So I showed my children that, and all three of them said, Dad, I'm not going to use the calculator. I'm not going to use Wolfram Alpha. I'm just going to use math that I know. Well, the trouble is they don't know the math. This is the math. This is the formula. This is not my opinion. This is the formula. And so here's what I said to them. I said, okay, you know what? Watch this. I'm going to go here to what's called an amortization calculator. And I'm going to replace this with $120,000 for 30 years. That's fine. And the interest rate, now here's something you need to know. If you put 0.06, if you change the interest to a decimal, then you will get the wrong answer here. Why? Because this is the way they set the problem up. And most people would do better if you just let them put 6%, and and this website will change it to 0.06. Now, notice what it says. Holy cow, it didn't take long for it to come up with $719. However, we got 41 cents, both on Wolfram Alpha and using my scientific calculator. So what's that about? Well, here's what that's about. It's a mortgage payment. And again, it does not include the insurance and taxes that they could take out in addition to that. So click on schedule, which is amortization schedule. And it says, okay, now expand all years. Well, what that means is show me the month by month thing. So here it is. The first payment is in December. And as advertised, your interest is $600. Your principal is the rest. And when you add those two together, you get $719.46. So why didn't it put 46 cents here? Because they didn't want to. Why didn't they want to? I don't know. It's a mortgage payment. They think that the 46 cents doesn't matter. But in fact, the 46 cents is included. So this is a little inaccurate, but less than 50 cents inaccurate. So not a big deal. Then if you do this consistently, every month you will owe a little bit less money. So instead of owing $120,000 after your first payment, you own only $119,880.54, which is what you get when you subtract $119.46 from your $120,000. I know this is sounding real mathy, but you can go on down to the bottom. And by the way, it'll tell you how much your total interest is over 30 years. Oh, well, that's cool. And indeed it is. So that one, my children were absolutely thrilled to use.